Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited for this episode. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this episode. The secret of freedom lies in educating people, whereas the secret of tyranny is in keeping them ignorant. Maximilian Robespierre. Our guest today is a teacher, a friend of the Culture Matters podcast, a supporter of Culture Matters for God knows how long. He's known me longer than I should remember. He's a friend of the Culture Matters podcast. You've heard him before on the Culture Matters podcast. Originally was in the markets and made his way into advising smart organizations on managing their, let's say, their financial liabilities in the context of insurance and looking at a more holistic, consultative approach. Beyond all that, Anthony Mirarchi is a good guy and a new father and the type of person that would say, yeah, I'm committed to doing a podcast on New Year's Eve of 2023. I don't have anything, else going on, like a new family. And thanks for coming on the podcast to teach us a few things about what's made you successful despite the odds, my friend.
Appreciate it, Jay, man. It's always a good time coming on with you, man. Appreciate your friendship. Appreciate you having me on, asking me. It's a pleasure to be on. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, too.
Yeah. So, like, let's say the person listening to this in June of 2024 that's thinking that, well, isn't even thinking. They're just they're looking for an answer of why they're not where they want to be. What do you say to them, within the context of today's New Year's Eve? We're making this happen. We're putting ourselves out there. What's that conversation look like between you and that person who feels like I need answers?
I mean,
Business
listen,
person.
it's all about how committed you are, right? It's about commitment. How committed are you to what you say you want to get to, right? I mean, listen, I've said this before on some of your podcasts, but I haven't fully gotten to where I want to be either. So there's some soul searching there too. How long does it take? Why aren't I there yet? You know what I mean? So, it's about the commitment. I mean, it doesn't have to be, 2024 starts and all magically all the things are going to start, right? I mean, you have to take steps now, today, this minute, this hour, it's not just, people like to do these, these New Year resolutions and, I'm going to try next year, 2024. I mean, I think why not now, right? Why not start now? And if you're in June, are you following through what you said you were going to follow through? These are kind of the questions you got to ask yourself. And I have to ask myself too, frankly.
I just had a very eerie epiphany. We met on this day.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah. Tonight, 7 or 8 years ago. It's crazy. I didn't even put it together now that you're saying it. That's fine.
I didn't realize.
And now we're doing a podcast 8 years later, wherever how many years it's been.
It's been, I think that was 2016.
Yeah, I think it was.
So that's 8 years tonight.
Yeah. 8 years. It's crazy. That's funny. You put it together. I didn't even think about that.
We met at a New Year's party.
That's right. Down where was it? Waterworks.
And I was not doing what I needed to do to make Culture Matters successful at the time. I was doing some of what I needed to do.
I think it was in a very infantile state at that point, though. I mean, I don't think it was.
Well, you were looking at an infantile then.
Well, I mean, listen, you got to start somewhere, right? Got to crawl before you walk, right?
Wow. Yeah, that didn't hit me before.
Yeah, no, it's funny you're saying it. I didn't even put that together. You're right. 8 years ago today. In a couple hours, actually.
So at that time, you had the vision in your mind of, I know this, what you were going to be where you're at.
Well, we've talked about it. I mean,
like with your business. You had that vision.
You know where you want to be at in your head, and you got to figure out a way to get to it, right? Isn't that what it's all about? It's kind of like you did. You're doing the same thing. You knew where you wanted to be at. You had to figure out how to get there.
Why have we? So here's I'll throw a wrench in it. Why have we not quit yet?
Because we're stubborn. We're stubborn and we're hard-headed, man. We're gluttons for punishment. Loans for punishment.
Yeah, what do you think are some of the character traits or why you've stayed in the game? Actually, no, I want to know what you think of why I stay in the game, and then I'll tell you what I think is the reason you're still.
Why did you stay in it?
Yeah, and I'll answer yours.
I think I think at this point I know your personality a little bit. I mean, like, I think you realize what it takes to the runway is long and bump to get, and I think you knew that. And I think I think just your personality, I think you're just you're willing to withstand that. And what were you going to go do? Were you going to go work for somebody? You weren't going to do something for somebody else. It's not your personality. You can tell most people that are like entrepreneurial or do things on their own. They don't have the desire to be told what to do by others, because frankly, they're probably smart enough to figure it out on their own. And that's why they typically go out and do their own thing. And you had that. I mean, we talked about it even that night. We talked about it a little bit, but even after that, we kind of became friendly that night 8 years ago today. And then from there, you kind of, you had many of the same thought patterns that I did. When I, was trying to get up and running, way before you. But I think you're just, you have that stubbornness and that just, nobody's going to dictate what you're going to do. You know what I mean? So I think that's why you stayed in the game, just like everybody else. We're all crazy. We're all a little bit crazy to do it. You know what I mean?
I want to say that I think that your expertise at you exude it, your expertise at your craft. And I think I've always watched you attract the type of clientele that would they would recognize that expertise, and they would want to be they believe they could trust that expertise. It's like I think that's part of the why we got along. I was like, this guy knows his stuff, carries himself extremely well, and has a great reputation. And you're so super service minded. Your clients, you always talk about your clients think about their needs and try to solve their problems. And that's something that I've learned interviewing so many people in business, and those that aren't in business anymore or want to be in business. The combination is the ones that play the long game. They care about their culture, is their client relationship. Starts with that. I think, and you're very stubborn.
You have to be
hard-headed.
You got to be crazy, and you got to be stubborn.
Why do you think that is?
I think, listen, you know how difficult it is. You've seen how difficult it is, even in your 8 years of doing this. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen how difficult it is, and the ups and the downs and the trials and the tribulations of going through trying to get to where you need to be. Some people they hit a wall and they stop because they're nervous or they get scared or whatever the case might be. They're like, oh, I'll just go get a job or whatever. I'll go the safety cushion. I mean, I don't really think anything's really that safe, to be honest with you. I think what we're doing versus what somebody is, doing, taking a 9 to 5 or something. I think that could be equally as crazy. I think, because everything depends on somebody else now. You know what I mean? I'd rather depend on myself. I feel confident in myself. And I feel like, whatever holes I end up in, I can probably dig myself out of it for the most part. So why not? I mean, I think you have to have an element of that. If you're going to go and do your own thing, you have to firmly believe that. If not, then, you're bound by somebody else. They're going to tell you what to do, when to come in, when to work, what you have to do. You know what I mean? I just don't, it's just not my personality. I did it for 1 year as an engineer when my background's in engineering, and I did it for 1 year, and I moved to New York and became a trader. And I've always done my own thing since then. So from 2022 2002 until now, 20 years, 22 years now.
It's crazy. I've thought about the fact that we met today, back then.
But that's why, man. Listen, even if you were talking about the goal oriented, or the client oriented, what else is it if it's not them? What else that's what it's all about, right? That's what we're in business for. We're in business to provide something that's unique in the market space. My uniqueness, although insurance isn't that unique in and of itself, but the delivery and the creativeness that goes behind and the service that you're willing to provide. Because listen, like I said, I'm an engineer by degree. everything that we did studying was all about finding solutions, right? There's a problem, you have to get to a solution. How do you do it? How do you reverse engineer it to the answer, or how do you engineer the answer, to the problem, to solve the problem, right? That's what we do. So I've taken it just instead of, I was in mechanical engineering, instead of doing, designing a whatever widget to fix a problem. Now I do it from like more of a finance standpoint. I try to help them to resolve issues they're having. And that's why it's more consultative than just like, I don't just sell things off the shelf. It's about like understanding what's going on and really developing something that's tailored for that person or that company or whoever, the individual, if I'm dealing with on an individual level. So that's really what, it's not about just selling product, pushing product, although you have to have product, but it's not just about that. Like Jay always said, I'm like, we're not digging ditches, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't dig ditches. So what else do I have? What I have is my service to my clients, to be there all the time. They call me whenever they want. If it's a Sunday, 7 o'clock in the morning, if something happens, they call me. If it's, 10 o'clock at night on a Friday night, I'm answering, whatever it is. That's what we're here for.
Mm.
They provide us the life that we're trying to build, right? If you're not servicing them, who are you servicing? What are you doing?
Why do you think people lose sight of it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Sometimes I guess those business probably tend to fail in the long run. You know what I mean? If they're not, if you're not all about your client, what else is there? At some point, that has to. I would imagine your company would cease to exist if it's not oriented towards your clients. And you're right, there are some that aren't like that. That just kind of, I guess maybe they lose focus of that over time sometimes, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't happen to me or to you or to, whatever.
Someone listening to this on the eve of 2020, New Year's Eve 2024, so a year from now, what could they say about who you are then?
Or, I mean, listen, I'm just a normal guy that is, like we said, stubborn about trying to get done what he wants to get done on his own terms. I try to do it on my own terms, and I feel like I'm, intelligent enough to figure out a way to deliver what needs to be delivered to the clients and to put them in a better position. You know what I mean? So far we've done it, hopefully it lasts for a long time. And that's pretty much it, man. It's about providing service, a useful service to somebody else.
How has being
look what you're doing, not to cut you off, but look what you're doing, providing education, you're educating people, you're providing insight to other people that have gone through things, me or whoever else you're talking to. I know you're talking about 15 people today. So all these people that are imparting knowledge on, you're providing the platform and the mechanism to deliver useful information to other people like me. Right? That want to learn about, like, what's somebody else doing? What's this guy doing? These other people that you're interviewing today. I saw the list. I don't want to call anybody out.
It's crazy. It's a little.
You're providing a platform for somebody else like me, or somebody that wants to be in our shoes. You're providing a platform of education and knowledge, right? So you're providing to your clients, us, the viewers, the listeners.
You think I should keep doing the podcast?
I mean, I love them.
Oh, do you listen?
I do.
Thanks.
Dude,
what do you say some of the, as a consumer, what would you say some of the takeaways are of the journey of it, or of the show?
Listen, there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? A million ways to skin a cat. So everybody that comes on is doing it their way, right? And that's what makes it. It's like Frank Sinatra, right? My way. I did it my way. Everybody's figuring out how to do it their way. And it's like, if you can, that's the part of it, you're imparting wisdom by hearing or allowing us to hear these other stories. Right. So that's the benefit to it. You get to, hey, what can I be doing different? Am I hitting a roadblock right now? Maybe I could utilize, that guy that Jay interviewed last week, I heard his, maybe I should try something different. Whatever that may be, whatever you're getting from these, from the podcast by listening to it, taking notes, whatever, what are things that make sense for you? Oh, I never thought about that. Let me try that. You know what I mean? Even personal behavior, like how you're doing, guys are getting up at, early in the morning or working out. They're doing, just even things like that. Really, that can change your whole day, which can change your whole mindset. You know what I mean? So things like that, that can impact other people.
Do you
You know what I
listen to
mean?
podcasts, or have you been doing that over? Is that a new thing?
Well,
Or
as
have
far
you
as
been doing
what?
that for years? I'm curious of the podcast experience you've had.
As far as like all in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, every so often I mean, I do listen. I know you, so I like to listen to what you got going on just to support you as well. But yeah, I mean, every so often I hear, like if I'm on Instagram, for example, and if I see somebody like you're scrolling, you see some people that are like, wow, that guy's interesting. Like, you know what I mean? Like you go and you find them. I'm sure they're doing podcasts. I'm sure they're doing, YouTubes or something on YouTube or whatever. And you go and listen to them. You try to get what you can from it. Right? That's why they're doing it. Why are these people? Why am I doing it? Why are your guys doing it? Right? They're doing it not self-servingly. They're doing it for other people. They're doing it. They're talking about their experiences and they want to provide it to others. Just like if somebody gets something for what I'm saying today, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if they do, it's great. It's what we want.
What's something you learned about yourself in 23?
It's a good question, man. I certainly haven't figured it out. I haven't figured everything out quite yet. Still learning, man, every day. As far as like, how to progress business. I know I've figured out some of the shortfalls that I have as far as, where I need to strengthen for 2024 to grow the business and all that stuff. So you know what? It's probably every year I probably recognize that, and you try to scratch a couple off the list, and then some stay on the list, and you gotta work towards getting that figured out. You know what I mean? I'd like to do a lot more collaboration with people this year. To figure that out, like a lot more.
So we have Junto. What are I mean, man,
Junto is definitely something we're gonna do
present
again.
tense. Because this is going to be out in 8 months.
Yeah, you were part of the original. You were in it originally.
What is Junto, and why should the listeners apply if they're in the greater Philadelphia region?
I mean, the Junto was. I mean, it's really a concept back like Benjamin Franklin era, where they got together with like-minded individuals to kind of progress forward. Business and society and personal to progress themselves forward as a community. You know what I mean? So we had it. You were part of the first one. You came to the first couple that we had, and they were selected. We selected them. Me and a buddy of mine that kind of put it together, like kind of like a mastermind type thing. And we selected people that we wanted in it. It wasn't open really to everybody. It was just, we said, listen, we're doing it. We called them and we sent invitations out to specific people, and they came. I think we had like 4 or 5 of them or whatever. So I'd like to reinstitute that with a little more selectivity. And I know you want to help out with that. So it's a great thing. I'm excited to kind of get it started and talk to you about it.
What do you think of it is about giving without expectation that makes business, that ironically brings business?
I don't know, I think it's just like good karma, dude. I think it's just good karma. You're providing. You're always looking for something. It's just like I don't want to say negative, but if you're always like kind of like what's in it for me type thing, it's like a negative. It's like negative thought process, like I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's like a negative way to think. You know what I mean? Where you're like, if you're at it for the good of others, I think ultimately, in the grand scheme of things probably end up coming back to you in the long run. But I just think it's if you're in it for me mentality, it's very negative, and it's going to create negative results in the end, I think.
Why is it powerful to be a part of a group like a mastermind, in your view?
Well, similar to what you're doing in your own regards, you've created a mastermind of sorts, right? It's not like we're not all meeting together in a room and talking about things face to face, but you're essentially doing something similar to that, where you're aggregating a platform, right? You have a platform that aggregates ideas together, and people can share those ideas, and you can listen to that at will and however you want to. You know what I mean? So you've essentially done that digitally with the podcast and all that stuff. But I mean, that's really what it's all about. I mean, I like more face to face, and I like to be in front of people to talk, like in a close, confined space. so you can really get to know people like that. But I mean, you've essentially done it in a different way. So I think it's powerful.
We should start a fight club.
Close the gates off and let anybody know about it.
Yeah, just cherry pick the certain guests.
Yeah, that's right.
This is not a book club. You have to hit the other person.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, I've digressed. I think it's the memories of New Year's of 2016.
Yeah, right. They're all coming back.
When I did drink. Yeah.
They're all coming back.
Yeah, why did I do that? Why did I dance like that? In closing, yeah. Man, for the person that is doing well, but they know there's more for them.
All right.
What's that conversation? You have 30 seconds with them in your fight club, in your junto. What are you saying to the listener? It's listening right now.
Doing well. So, listen, that's all subjective to the person, right? It's a subjective thought, like doing well. What does that mean? You could be doing well financially. What is that? First of all, you have to quantify what that means. And then secondarily, it's kind of like, what does doing well mean to you? Right. Like, and how do we, if you're in the junto, how do we help each other get to that point? That's what it's all about. It's really what we're all trying to do here. You're trying to help us, right? By doing the podcast to introduce you to people that we've otherwise would not talk to or listen to, right? So you're utilizing the digital platform, which has been great for things like this, to expose others to help themselves. And, the junto, I guess, is more an old-fashioned way of doing it because it's more like kind of together, like in one space. I guess we could do Zoom.
I think they complement each other greatly.
They do, because we could be doing these Zooms, right? We could do the Zooms, and we can maybe have some people that want to be helping and giving some insight, but maybe they're in Florida, maybe they're in Arizona. You know what I mean? So we could bring them into the table too. So, but I would say you need a little soul searching, man. You got to figure out what would you do? You need a little soul searching. You need to who can I talk to that can assist? Can't do it yourself. Can't do everything yourself. You know what I mean? Who can I talk to assist me in getting to that next level?
And man, I'm so grateful for you. And
Likewise.
I think that we'd be such friends that we'd forget that we met on this day 8 years ago. Because
Right.
When I asked you to do this, just like, oh, come on, it was actually, we were just texting about some other stuff. It's like, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? Yeah, come on. So it was less planned. It was more just relationally organic.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're boys, man. Know you for a long time outside of all this stuff. We know each other, I've seen you grow, you've seen me grow.
So to be able to do this is it's a privilege, and I'm grateful that I've survived long enough to be able to look back at our journeys and our businesses and do this. So I wish you Happy New Year, and to all
the man, likewise.
If there's one message I think that I hope we've sent is the power of like staying in the game and relationships.
That's right. Relationships are powerful, man. What do they always say? I know the cliche. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I mean, it's a cliche, and people, it is what it is, but it's very true. It is what it is. I mean, it's more about, the relationships you create and how you, develop them and grow them and stay with them. And, and eventually everybody kind of, rising tide raises all ships, right? Or all boats, isn't that how it goes? Rising tide raises. So one goes up, they all go up. You know what I mean? So if you stay long enough with each other and these relationships, and, you kind of feed off of each other eventually.